Okay, y'all. So now let's move on to our next topic, and let's get to this one that I had literally found moments before we started the show. That's why it took me while I was a little late coming on because I had to put this topic together. So yeah, James Gunn is, we're just like what? It comes out next month. Like I think we're a month away, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm like, when is July 11th? What's today's date? The 16th. So less than a month away, a couple of days off, give or take, from the release of Superman, which is highly anticipated. And for people to say that it's not, you a damn lie, because if it wasn't, then we wouldn't be having this specific conversation on this show, which would be James Gunn calling out a lot of the Snyder Bros over their disdain. Oh, I was like, I just realized something. I lost all my stuff that I had open when that damn internet cut out. So yeah, so we wouldn't be having this conversation regarding this whole situation if the Snyder Bros wasn't, walking around with their thumbs up their ass. So yeah, so to get to the story, James Gunn is responding on Threads because he loves jumping on the social medias. That's why I think a lot of people like about him versus other folks. To an online movement from Zack Snyder fans that seek to negatively impact the potential success of Gunn's Superman, which kicks off the new DC universe that is being shaped by the writer, director, and his DC Studios co-chief, Peter Safran. Now, Snyder was in charge of the last DC universe, or we should say DCEU, because that's what it was called, which kicked off, films such as Man of Steel. But if we're going to really be honest, which this is the part where it gets a little, the memory gets a little fuzzy for the Snyder Bros, and they start to fall on the side of delusion, or as the kids call it, Delulu. uh, Still didn't do that well at the box office. It underperformed. They were expecting to be like this $1 billion film. The only movie out of the whole franchise, the DCEU, that made $1 billion, if I'm not mistaken, is Aquaman, the first one, not the second one. The second one made his money back and it did relatively well. But for the most part, the only film from that franchise that grossed $1 billion versus how many of the MCU? And I know it might be unfair to kind of compare the MCU to the DCEU, but as I've stated many times before, I think what really also hurt the DCEU, the Snyderverse, was that we didn't get a solo Batman movie. You basically just went from Man of Steel, and then you went and decided, let's do a Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. And then we got to introduce Wonder Woman. And we got to introduce all these other characters. And it's like, no, Batman should have been given his own film. That's why I always said, like, before, comparing the MCU to the DCU, or the DCEU, I should say. I know it's the DCU, same shit, different toilet. But anyway, except it's under new management. But the difference was, I felt like the Marvel Cinematic Universe had enough time to build up to the Avengers. DC felt like they were trying to play catch up with MCU. And it's like, no, stop trying to rival what they doing over there. What you should have been focusing on was doing your own thing. MCU, go over there, let them do what they do. You distinguish yourself from what they're doing over there, and you do your own thing over here. And that's why I like the direction that James Gunn is going, which is because he went, and I feel like the big mistake they did in the beginning was that, oh, we're going to have these 10 movies that we're going to be making in the next decade. So these are the films. Haven't heard anything. The only thing we got in the vault right now is Supergirl and the upcoming Superman. And they're working on Lanterns. And then what happened to Booster Gold? What happened to the Brave and the Bold? What happened to oh my God, I forgot the name of the authority. What happened with that? That's supposed to be another thing that's supposed to be coming. So and then of course we got Peacemaker season 2. I almost forgot about them. But we have all these other things coming, but we haven't heard anything. I mean, we have Clayface, but now that we're hearing rumblings that they're still developing those things, we don't really know, I guess, what's happening with a lot of those other things. But what we have heard recently was that Wonder Woman is being worked on, a script, which I think is smart. I do feel like we get we get Batman. Hopefully, we get an introduction to Bruce Wayne / Batman in Superman. Hoping it's Brandon Sklenard, because I like him and I think he would make a great Batman. That's been the big rumor, but I'm hoping he gets it. He was in Drop. He was also on that show. one of the Taylor Sheridan Western shows with I forget what is it called, 1893, whatever the hell it is, the one with Harrison Ford, that show. He's on that, but they're talking about they want him to be the new Batman. I could definitely see Brandon Sklenar playing that part. So I'm hoping we get Batman an announcement. We haven't heard anything. We do know Brave and the Bold's coming. Don't know when that's happening. Wonder Woman is coming. They just announced that. Don't know who's going to play that, but I'm hoping it's Jason Momoa's girlfriend. What's her name? Adria Arjona. I'm really pulling for her to get that part. I'm hoping, like, I'm not a casting person or have control of that, but I'm pulling that, hoping and praying she gets that part. So I know I went off on this side tangent about the whole Superman Batman situation, but let's get back into the thing because it all fits in with this whole situation. So it's like, yeah, Batman versus Superman didn't do all that well. Justice League did not do all that well, even though y'all gave us two different versions of it. The Flash was a flop. Like I said, Aquaman was the only film that grossed $1 billion. The second one didn't hit that mark, but it did relatively well. Wonder Woman, the original, was a good film. It was a hit. 1984 was complete and utter gutter trash. So when your movies are more or less falling on the side of bomb versus hits, you want to continue to keep, burning away at the, burning the, the candle at both ends and continue to make the same movies from this franchise if it's not working. Like, I just don't understand the mentality. You people are so loyal to the whole SnyderVerse that it's like, this is an industry. This is a movie money making industry. You cannot just keep burning away money, losing money, which is going to piss off the shareholders because that's what it's all about now. It's not even about, for the most part, there are people out here who are trying to push to make really good movies and art and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, this is a movie business. And at the end of the day, if your movie is not making money, if the franchise is not working, if what you're doing is not working, then yeah, if you're not doing the job that I hired you for, then sorry, you're out. And I got to bring somebody in. One day you're in, the next day you're out. I'll be the same bitch. In the words of Heidi Klum. I almost forgot a damn name. So yeah, they said stand up and fight for SnyderVerse on July 11th. This is what one Reddit user posted. Fight for our SnyderVerse on the imposter Superman release day. Here's what we can do to make a difference. There's nothing you can do to make a difference, sir, but we'll entertain your bullshit. So, number one, it said post spoilers everywhere. People are less likely to see or enjoy the movie if it's already spoiled. Hence why we're all going to go opening weekend, you moron. Number two, leave bad rating on review sites. We know for sure gun bots will post fake positive reviews, so we must let people know the truth and balance the bias out with realistic scores. Number three, reserve tickets online but don't complete the purchase. By selecting and reserving tickets, it gets taken out of the pool for a period of time, which means this has a chance of stopping gun bots from buying tickets. Here's the thing. I'm sorry, but I have a life. I ain't got time to be doing all this foolishness. Well, these basement dwellers, your people can crack me the fuck up. But anyway, so the Reddit user added that Gunn fired the first shot and killed the SnyderVerse, and here is our chance to take the fight back to him. Gunn responded with a short takedown and said, I think we will survive. I'm not sure the 8 people that listen to that guy, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess it's a guy, are going to impact the course of events. And I don't think it is either because we already heard tracking that the movie is set to make between 150 and 180 million dollars. So people already bought their tickets. People are relatively excited for this film. And yeah, there's always this small group of people that want, basement dwellers that, with no picture, that wants to get a whole lot of attention. They want to cause a commotion and they want to get people all shooketh and all this other mess. So that way they don't want to see a movie. Here's the thing. But, as I'm going in and letting have one of these idiots, I am a fan of Batman versus Superman. I'm also a fan of Man of Steel. I liked what Zack Snyder brought to the whole Man of Steel thing. I like the overall spectacle. I love the visuals. I thought Henry Cavill did a good job. The problem for me was it lacked something that I feel like we're getting from the new DCU, and that's a sense of hope. We don't need to be in a situation right now where everything is so dour, everything is so depressing, everything is so dark. And that's what I felt that tonally, that's what was too much in that whole Snyder universe. There was no sense of, whimsy or wonder or hope or whatever. And that's what you want to invoke in people. Like when the times is hard and when people are down in the trenches and are feeling depressed or whatever they can, I know you feel mighty down. Know you feel mighty bad. So when you feeling like that, in the words of Sophia from The Color Purple, you want there to be somebody there that could be that symbol of hope and be like, you know what? If you just pull yourself up and just keep fighting, we'll get to the other side. And there was none of that from the whole Snyder View. It was just too damn dark and depressing. But as like I said, it was like there was no balance. That it was just dark, 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 dark. Even down to the part where you had Superman killing somebody. Which I understood why he did what he did and the direction he decided to take with that. But why can't we be offered an alternative? And this has happened many times in films. Sometimes things don't work out and they get rebooted and you bring in a new group of people and there's a new version of that whole world that gets brought up. But I've never seen it be this bad, though. So I really don't understand why people are feeling the way they feel. And I also want to point this out. So even with this picture that we had regarding Superman, we had a picture, what was it, a couple of months ago, while I think James Gunn was still working on the movie, that he and Zack Snyder took a photo together. So there's no ill will. They kind of look like they're related. There's no ill will. There's no bad blood. But you will still have these incels on social media that will still try to create, drama, chaos, because they want to keep the momentum going. It's kind of like similar to the situation where recently the story came out that Lady Gaga and Madonna's following Lady Gaga again. And you already know, like, the fans between the little critters and Madonna fans going back and forth on social media and the ageism comments from them baby critters and all that other stuff, where it's like, y'all want to keep the drama going. Y'all want to keep the momentum. Meanwhile, the people that's working in the industry, there's no ill will. There's no, like, hatred towards each other. But y'all people on social media are still running around here pissed off because you're not getting your Superman with Henry Cavill, who's moved on to making other movies. He's got Voltron that's supposed to be coming out. Why don't y'all go out and support that goddamn movie when it comes out? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a Voltron fan. I grew up on Voltron, so I'm going to go see it. But instead of y'all being mad about Superman, when Henry Cavill drops a movie, why aren't y'all in the theater watching the damn film when it comes out to help those movies become the big box office hits that they should be? But then it ends up being a flop 9 times out of 10. So while Henry Cavill does good in roles that he does, to me, it just seems like he's not a box office draw, because if he was, y'all would be flocking to the theater to see everything that man is in. So when the math ain't math, I just bring up receipts, math, all that other stuff. When it's like, y'all, the hot air from the incels on social media versus the actual numbers and facts, that's kind of like, it's like, okay, the math ain't mathing. So I get annoyed with that. So I was like, is there anything else that needs to be said about this? Because I know I went off on all these little tangents and didn't even finish the article. Because this is like, irritates me when all this other stuff comes out when it comes to things like this. It's like, why can't we just have nice things and enjoy stuff? If you don't want to go see something, don't go see it. But don't try to, try to get other people to not want to go see something because you don't want to see something. Just be mad. Why you mad though? Why you mad though? So the director then elaborated on the topic in a new interview with Rolling Stone, saying, I don't mind it. I think it's good. I think you don't want to have everybody root for you. And I have an actor who reads everything online. I won't say who it is, but he'll read this article and he'll know who it is if it's one of the top 5 in Superman. And this actor gets so upset over things that people say. I said, first of all, you realize that the trailer came out and reaction was 97, 98% positive. These people help us because you don't want everything to seem 100% positive. And that's what it is. It's like, well, look, here's the reality. As someone who has studied acting and this, that, and the other, artists, actors, vehemently insecure. So while 98% of people will sit and love what you do, there's 2% that don't. you harp on the 2% because the 2%, oh my God, then you get in that Jimmy Fallon space of, I got to please everybody. I want everybody to like me. Everybody's not going to like you. And the minute you come to that point of like, well, fuck you, you suck the shit out my ass. I don't give a good goddamn whether or not you like me, the better off you'll be. And that's how I roll with my life. I don't give a good goddamn who likes or who dislikes me. I mean, it don't stop the world from spinning on its axis. Okay, it was like, well, what that got to do with the price of tea in China? That's how I feel. No skin off my nose or on the crack of my ass. And so it says, it's all right to have an opposing force every once in a while. Some of the things get ridiculous. I just know that every time something comes out, it doesn't matter how positively received, there's going to be something that is of great controversy. It was great controversy that the sun caused Superman pain. And so there, he's making like little changes and all this other stuff in the film. And I think that people were like, huh? But here's the thing. There's gotta be ways that we can make Superman interesting, especially because how do you make someone who is the most invulnerable person in the world vulnerable? Because he's supposed to be perfect. He's supposed to be this godlike creature or whatever. And so he's got to have those moments of vulnerability. And you have to find ways to bring that into a godlike creature because if he's perfect, that makes him boring. So you have to make changes, I get, in the cinematic world in order to make that character feel somewhat relatable and human, even though he's not human, he's Kryptonian. So I'm actually looking forward to this movie. I'm definitely gonna go to the movies to see this, and I'll probably, when this film comes out, I'll probably do a full breakdown, deep dive into the whole Superman lore and all that other stuff. Because Superman, I mean, I love me some Batman, but Superman is one of my favorite characters and stuff. So I'm really excited for this film. But yeah, so David Corn Sweat, as you saw in the previous photo that we had, is our new Superman. And I kind of like what he's bringing so far, but I have to see his whole shtick in full before I can make a full assessment. But based off of what I've seen in the little trailers, I like what I've been seeing so far. And this recent one that they pointed out with Nicholas Hoult, as we got to hear more of his voice and how his personality is as Lex Luthor. I'm really excited for it, and I'm so glad my gut was right. Well, usually my gut is always right. It's never steered me wrong. But for the most part, when I'm listening to it most of the time, because there's times I go against it and then I regret it. But when I was like, the minute I heard about, because Nicholas Hoult also, for people who don't know, did audition to play Superman, in which David Corn Sweat wound up getting it. And I always looked and I was like, no, I kind of see him as Lex Luthor. And then all of a sudden you start hearing the stories weeks later that that's what he was cast as. And to me, seeing him in that role and hearing his voice and basically his whole spiel about Superman and that whole thing, I really feel like he's going to eat this role up. And a lot of people will be talking about his part as Lex, like we talked about Heath Ledger playing Joker. So I'm putting that down on, I'm putting that down on, what do they call it? A gamble. I'm taking that gamble with that. So that's how I feel. So yeah. Gunn revealed shortly after taking over DC that he had touched base with Snyder and there were no hard feelings, which is what I told y'all about earlier. And said one of the biggest questions was, were we going to have trunks or were we going to not have trunks? And they were talking about the whole, look, I don't like the trunks on Superman, to be honest. I kind of like Henry Cavill's suit. I don't like the trunks on him. The trunks look funny. But he said that that's the trunks that that's the Superman he grew up on. So that's basically why James Gunn had him wear the trunks. But if we see the film and they kind of look at it like, it's not working. And then the overall assessment of the people is like, can y'all get rid of them trunks? They look stupid. Maybe we'll get a makeover in Superman 2. So yeah, I know this was a long one, but it was like, yeah, we had to break this story down. So I want to hear from y'all. What do you guys think of this story regarding what these incels out here bitching and moaning about the fact, they're still bitter that we're getting this James Gunn Superman and that Henry Cavill, who has moved on to making other films, most recently Voltron, Word on the Curve. I don't know what's happening with Highlander. Still don't know what's going on with that, but that's another movie he's supposed to be making. So I definitely want to hear from y'all. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.